Days of doing nothing are super important. Hi everyone, it's Emily the Career Catalyst, and I'm a huge fan of these do nothing days. Now, I understand that not everyone has the luxury to have very many of these, but I really recommend that you grab them whenever you can. So if you have the luxury to kind of plan for these do nothing days, definitely do it. I recommend at least one a quarter, and in fact, I try to go for one a month. What I do is I just stick it on my calendar. So I actually usually do this in January, but you can do it at any point. I go through my calendar and I look for things where days where I just don't have a commitment yet, and I put it in there, do nothing day. I do as many of those as make sense. So like I said, I try to do one a month, and I just block it off. The whole day is a do nothing day. And that means a bunch of things, right? That means that I'm not going to go to the dentist that day. That means that I'm not going to go grocery shopping that day. I just block it off as a do nothing day, and I'm not committed to anything except doing nothing. Meaning, if I wake up that morning and feel really energetic, I might go out and have a hike. If I wake up that day and feel really sleepy, I might stay in my pajamas all day and just have soup and tea all day. Doesn't matter. The point of the planning of this is that you want to be sure that you pad in those days where you aren't doing anything. And I think this is super important right now because with so many of us working from home, we're getting this weird kind of scope creep that isn't necessarily part of our normal lives. You know, if we're always at work, then it's hard to kind of pad in times when we're just not thinking about anything productive. And especially if you have kids, and they're also doing that weird kind of hybrid virtual school thing, that gets extra hard. If you have a spouse who's also working from home, all of that stuff really makes it complicated. So if you can, try to find a day when your mother or your best friend or someone can take your kids, and your spouse can also have a do nothing day. And you really just plan to have a few of these a year. Like I said, once a quarter, I think is kind of the minimum number. That gives you at least 4 times a year where you just don't have obligations. And I think it's so important because humans have a finite quantity of energy that we can spend in other places. We need to put time into ourselves in order to rebuild that flow of energy, right? Now, if you have things that you do every day, absolutely feel free to keep doing those. You can work out, you can have a meditation session, whatever feels like it's really important to you. But I want it to feel like it's your choice and to feel like really you've decided and you've chosen all of this. Because regardless of where you are, if you're looking for a job, if you're working a job you don't love, if you're working a job you adore, you still just need this time to recharge and to refuel yourself. And, you know, in normal times, when I have a do nothing day, I'll sometimes decide, oh, I'd like to go to the museum today. Less of an option right now. I have tried some of those virtual museum things. I don't love it. It's not quite experiential enough for me. So what I do instead is I tend to look at, for example, just watch an old movie that I really like, or read an old favorite novel, something like that. And I tend to kind of fall back into those old favorites, those patterns that are a little bit more familiar. And I think it's just because I'm resting my brain a bit to get ready for the rest of the time when I'm just doing. So tell me what you think. I really recommend these do nothing days. I actually plan to go through my calendar today because I've realized since this year has been so strange already, I forgot to put them in this year. So I'm going to pad some into my calendar. I hope you are able to do the same. If you have a whole bunch of obligations, but you also have tips on how to structure some of these do nothing days, please pop them in the chat. I'd love to hear your suggestions. In the meantime, you all have a really lovely weekend, and I will see you here next week.